is up, everybody, and welcome on in. Oh wait, what the fuck? Why was that so low? Jeez. Hey, let's try that again. What's up, everybody, and welcome on in. It is Tuesday, December 10th, and Holy Emperor, the gods smile on us nerds today. We have an absolutely packed show for you today. Insane amounts of Marvel news. We've got Star Wars news. We've got Sony Spider-Man news, and it's actually a W. We've got Warhammer news, baby. Oh, I can't wait. Oh, I can't wait to get into the Warhammer stuff. And then we have the news that broke the internet yesterday. Chris Evans confirmed Hollywood Trades. Good scoop by Umberto. I think a lot of other people were on it as well. Chris Evans is in Doomsday. And that's crazy. Because, yes, we knew Chris Evans was coming back. A lot of us assumed it would be for Secret Wars. So the fact that he's going to be in Doomsday is pretty wild. It leads to some pretty crazy theories. I have a big video I recorded. I was so excited, man. Woke up this morning. First thing I did, recorded a video about Chris Evans and some other things that I've heard about. Oh, it's so juicy, but it's very spoilery. So we're going to put that in a video. That's going to drop on the main channel later today. In this stream, we will break it down from a news perspective. I'll answer some questions. We'll talk about it a little bit, but holy shit. The W's are raining down upon us, except for Star Wars. We'll get there. We'll talk about Star Wars too. I'm very excited to be here with you guys today. This is going to be one of the all-time greats, man. Oh, I am excited. So, what is up, man? How's everybody doing? We'll get into the news in just a little bit. But for now, we'll catch up a little bit. How are you guys feeling? Where's your personal hype level at with some of this news? Oh, you guys know I can't wait to yap about Warhammer. Oh, I can't wait to yap about Warhammer. Okay. Let's we're not gonna get into it, but let's talk show notes. Okay, let's talk show notes. Tonight at 7:30, we're streaming on Twitch. We're gonna be playing Marvel Rivals. Okay, Rob from Comics Explained is supposed to play with us tonight. Marvel Rivals. If there are other people out there that want to play, we can do that too. We can get some other people in there. It should be a good time. But before we play Marvel Rivals tonight on Twitch, we are first going to watch the newly released Warhammer short that was included in the Amazon anthology series. I forget what the anthology series is called. You guys let me know. But this shit is so epic, man. I'm excited to watch this with you guys. If you don't know shit about Warhammer, come by tonight at 7:30 on the Twitch. We will watch it together, and then we'll do a live breakdown. I'll show you, like, the fucking demons, and I believe it's a keeper of secrets, at the end of it. We're going to get into all of that. I'll talk about all the lore, and it's super juicy because the live-action Warhammer shit, secret level, thank you, Riley. The live-action Warhammer shit is real. It is coming. They finally figured it out, which it was kind of teased with an earnings report a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you guys remember. I did mention that. So good things are coming. We'll get into that. Tonight at 7:30, we're going to watch. We're going to do some Warhammer shit. And then we're going to play Marvel Rivals with Rob from Comics Explained. Do you think Rob's going to be good at the game, by the way? I'm kind of interested. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Maybe we'll get all the dubs. So we'll be doing that. Aaliyah, what up? Recent trip to Hawaii. Excellent. I hope you had a good time. It's good to see you. Oh, I'm so excited. So we're going to get into that. Now, tomorrow night, we will have a Nerdventure stream. We're going to continue our deep dive on Daredevil, but that is the last member stream of the year. Okay? I apologize, but I just need some time to figure some stuff out. There's also, like, a lot of stuff going on with, like, new baby number 2. Podcast stuff, comic book stuff. I am in the weeds, as they say, okay? Very, very busy. So this will be the last Nerdventure stream of the year. We'll make it a good one. We'll go for a couple hours tonight. We'll hang out, talk about Daredevil, have a good time, etc., etc. And then we're off on member streams until the beginning of next year, okay? I think that's all of the programming stuff for you this week. However, one more thing we got to talk about, okay? So I had mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, but Nerd of the Rings, great YouTuber, awesome dude. Many of you probably watch his Tolkien content. He's been doing some Marvel content recently as well, too. Nerd of the Rings, great guy. I was talking to him in the DMs recently, okay? And we were talking about our shared love of Warhammer. And I said to him, because we've always wanted to collaborate on stuff, we have similar vibes. So we've always wanted to collaborate. And I told him, I said, dude, if this Henry Cavill Warhammer stuff gets confirmed, I will do a podcast with you dedicated to Warhammer. So I'll be honest with you, I didn't actually think it would be confirmed this quickly. I didn't think we'd get rolling this quickly, but we're doing it. We are doing a Warhammer podcast together. So Nerd of the Rings and Den of Nerds Warhammer podcast coming to you soon. We might even do the first episode really soon because this news is fresh. I'd love to just geek out with him about Warhammer, and then also like our expectations for the Cavill stuff. I have heard so much shit behind the scenes that I want to try to contextualize and sort of ask him about. Oh man, I don't want to get into the weeds too much about this shit, but like when he and I were brainstorming this, like he has a lot of connections. We both have a lot of connections, but like in different ways. So I have a lot of connections because I know a lot of the Warhammer YouTubers, and I've kind of gotten into the rumor mill over there. So I have like some sources with Warhammer. I've been hearing some interesting things. Nerd of the Rings has connections with the actual Games Workshop people. He recently did a collaboration with them because they do Lord of the Rings miniatures as well. So he kind of like met some of them and he knows some of the authors and stuff like that. So like, dude, bro, we are cooking. We are cooking on that podcast already. That's just going to be awesome. We're thinking about calling it, or at least I asked some of my people in Discord and on Twitter what they would want to call it. I kind of like Nerd Hammer. Or something like the Nerd Hammer podcast or something like that. I think that shit would be hype. So Nerd Theory is still back too, right? No. Star Wars is dead. Star Wars is cooked. I don't want to fucking talk about Star Wars. I don't want to talk about Star Wars ever. I damn sure don't want to be doing a regular podcast talking about Star Wars. I'm sorry. I'm going to try to be chill about it. But that shit is Jover. Okay? Now, on to the good shit, baby. Oh, man. Warhammer, baby. Oh, I'm so excited. Dude. It is a great time to be a nerd. It is a great day to be a nerd. I've said, oh, dude, Dana White, don't worry. We're going to get into it. It's the first thing on my list. Star Wars, literally, Star Wars keeps holding L's even when they try to hold a dub. It's so fucking pathetic. We'll get there in just a second, but that's Warhammer! Guys, I've been saying for years, ever since this rumor first came out, and I remember that stream after, it was the week after James Gunn fired Henry Cavill, which of course I was sort of involved with because I was one of the only motherfuckers that called that shit real early. James Gunn clowned on me online and then turned around and proved me correct by firing Cavill. And I remember that so clearly. I remember the disparity between the comments that Gunn said and what Cavill said. And you could just feel the differences in the way that Gunn was trying to spin the narrative. Regardless, from a super low as a big Cavill fan, to then have Henry announce that same week, I believe it was Friday that week after Gunn fired him, for Cavill to announce he's producing and helping to shepherd a live-action Warhammer cinematic universe. That's the words he used. It was like going from a super low to a super fucking high, okay? the timing was so crazy because I had basically gotten into Warhammer about a year, maybe a year and a half prior to this whole thing going down with like Cavill announcing this. And I fell in love, like many people do. I fell in love with Warhammer. It is fantastic. The lore is fantastic. The mise en scène is fantastic. The fucking vibes, strong. Okay? And I said then, and I still believe this has the potential to be big as or bigger than Game of Thrones and potentially even the MCU. Now, you know, it would be crazy for it to get to MCU level. But what I'm really saying when I say that is all of the attributes that make these different IPs attractive to the studios, Warhammer has it in spades. Warhammer has it times 10. It has literally every ingredient needed to cook something substantial, something epic as fuck that could literally hold an entire cinematic universe. So much content can be held via the Warhammer cinematic universe. So holy shit, does it feel good? Oh man, it feels good. Hang on, I gotta turn the heater off here. It's getting too hot. It's getting too hot. Okay. Sorry, got a little too excited there. Got a little too hyped up. Shall we begin? Even bigger than Rebel Moon? How dare you? How dare you? And also, oh my god, I just figured some shit out. Also, first of all, how dare you? Also, you can't keep me down. I'm too hyped, man. You're not going to be able to drag me down today, chat. It's not happening. Okay. Let's get in to the news, and let's begin with this Star Wars bull crap-ery. Let me see this. Let me pull this up for you guys. This is actually hilarious. So, I felt like it would be best to start with Star Wars because there's actually a lot of hyped up shit to talk about. And Star Wars isn't one of them. Like, that's in a world where we're literally talking about like Hydra Captain America, and we're literally talking about Warhammer cinematic universes. We're talking about Sony and them finally giving up on their Sony bullshit without Spider-Man universe. We get the big Star Wars news. Are you ready? Drum roll, please. Jeremy Allen White joins Star Wars film The Mandalorian and Grogu as Jabba the Hutt's son. Jabba the Hutt's son. I'm not kidding. That's the news. That's the Star Wars news. Jabba the Hutt's son. Like, can you believe it? Like, what the fuck are we talking about here? Like, what the fuck are we doing here, brother? The Jabba the Hutt's son? The guy from the fucking bear is Jabba the Hutt's son. That's the shit that's supposed to get me excited? That's the big scoop? That's the big news? This is unfucking believable. This is unfucking believable, dude. If I was a Star Wars fan, I mean, like, I kind of am a Star Wars fan, but, like, I've kind of given up as well, so it brings me a lot more peace because I don't get let down over and 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 over again. This is unremarkable, meaning you shouldn't even remark on this shit, let alone try to push it through as trade news on the same fucking day that the trades leak. Fucking Chris Evans coming to Doomsday. what are we doing here? Like, think about it. We've tried to illustrate this point before. Robert Downey Jr. is coming back as Doctor Doom. Like, you might have mixed feelings about that, but it is on another level. That's like putting your dick on the table. It is crazy. It has people talking. It's weird. People trying to figure out what's going on. Chris Evans now back in that bitch too. Holy shit. Insanity. What's Star Wars doing? They're trying to push through 5 fucking Rey movies. They've got the 4th season of a show who fell off in season 3 as a fucking movie, and the news that you muster up is the guy from the fucking Bear is Jabba the Hutt's son? Holy shit. This is the most absurd shit I have ever seen in my fucking life. Take it out to pasture. Put a bullet in its head. It's Jover. Star Wars, you're a fucking embarrassment. Even when you're trying to break news, it's unfucking believable. It's unbelievable. Holy. But, you know, look, there's some people out there, to be fair to the Star Wars brand, there's going to be some people out there that are eating this shit up. Num, 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 num. Oh, it's so cool. Can't believe it. It's so fucking awesome. Can you believe Jabba the Hutt's son played by the Bear? So, needless to say, I think the Star Wars news is so hilarious when juxtaposed against all of the rest of the news that came out that's actually good for franchises that actually still have a chance. So I wanted to bring this news up first because it's a goddamn hilarious little appetizer, and that's what Star Wars has become, a footnote in the history books, a little joke to get us started before we get into actual news about serious shit. Star Wars, how you have fallen. It is fucking embarrassing. Okay. Moving right along. We got to talk about this. This is actually goddamn ridiculous. This is crazy. So the Wrap did not just break crazy stuff yesterday about Captain America. They actually broke some Sony news as well. This is so bizarre. Let us read this together. As Craven hunts for audience, Sony's Marvel Universe takes final bow. Now, analysis. Oh, wait, what the hell? We have to read this shit? All right, I'm not going to read this shit. I'm instead just going to read the headline and act like I read that shit. Sorry, Umberto, I'm not paying for that. Sony's Spider-Man villain spin-off universe is dead. Kraven the Hunter will be the final film in that universe for now. Sourced by The Wrap. Okay, so this is, again, another massive W, but I want to kind of explain what's going on here, right? We've been basically writing the obituary of Kraven the Hunter for the past couple of weeks. It's tracking incredibly low. I think it's tracking at like a 20 million domestic opening, 25 million domestic opening, which would make it the lowest in the franchise total. I think even lower than Madam Web. A couple of weeks ago, box office tracking had this thing at 50% of the pre-sale tickets, than Joker 2 was doing. Joker 2 did literally twice as much pre-sale business as fucking Kraven, dude. And Joker 2 is a bomb so epic they're going to write ballads about it, right? So this is a really bad, tricky situation. Just 4 or 5 days ago, when we talked about this on stream yesterday, Sony announced they're pulling about 1,000 theaters from their distribution of this movie. All of the other Sony Marvel movies have hit at least 4,000 screens. This movie's only going out to 3,000 screens. They're putting it out to pasture. They already know what it is. And according to The Wrap, this is now the final blow to their Spider-Man-less Spider-Man universe. So that's epic fucking news. Thank God. Holy shit. And I guess in some weird way, we have Kraven to thank. I mean, the Kraven movie is gonna bomb. And now that we know that it is the final nail in the coffin, we don't even have to go see that shit. It's Jover. That whole universe is going away. So thank you, Umberto, for allowing us to not give a literal shit about the Kraven movie. That's also a W, in my opinion. Now, the question becomes, what direction will Sony go in now? Okay? And it seems like they obviously have their animated stuff with Across the Spider-Verse and the stuff they're cooking up over there. They have this new Nicolas Cage Spider-Man Noir project over at Amazon. Going to be, probably the boys level production. I think it looks great. So maybe that's the direction they're going to go in. But more than likely, what they're going to set up now is probably a version of the universe they were building before, but just with Spider-Man. I don't think it's going to be Tom Holland, but I think it'll be Spider-Man. And I think this will likely run congruent to the soft reboot of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's like my speculation on this thing. But either freaking way, this is a massive W that this stuff is finally going away. And I guess it just took to get to Kraven, which, again, as we've been saying, it's very likely that Kraven is the technically best thing they've created, and it's going to bomb terribly. So I think they're finally reading the tea leaves. No more Sony Universe of Marvel characters without Spider-Man. Chat, what do you think? I'm going to open it up to chat. What do you guys think of this, man? Finally. What are your thoughts? Any thoughts, comments, questions, concerns? But also, Skeleton Crew is a success. What? No, Skeleton Crew's not a success. Nobody's watching that show. It's over because Doom is making one timeline. It's coming back. So from what I understand, the multiverse will exist in some form via the soft reboot. After Doomsday, it's probably that, yes, there's just one singular universe. Even that, we're not 100% sure about, right? But the main point here is this thing that they've been trying, they've just failed over and over and over again. It seems like they made a last-minute effort to try to get people to check out Kraven and to think that Kraven would be relevant. They posted the 8 minutes about a week ago. I doubt it had any impact. So it seems like, they just pulled it from 1,000 theaters. They've quietly already decided that they're done doing this. So, yeah, that's more the point. Josh, what does the contract for Sony and Marvel stipulate regarding Spider-Man? If they could just do villains to maintain IP, why can't they beef up and do Spider-Man, Miles, Miguel, Ben, Noir? Yeah. So that's actually an incredible question. We don't know the exact answer, right? But I will tell you what I think, and what I think is an informed opinion, okay? But you can't really take this as a report. Do you get what I'm saying? So I think what happened, I'll just tell it like this. I think it's Kevin Feige. I think Kevin Feige did this, essentially. Because if you look at what Amy Pascal said, if you go all the way back to the classic sad Feige interview, where he's like twitching and looking really uncomfortable as she's like explaining stuff, right? What she's saying back then is that they're building a universe for Tom Holland Spider-Man. They were literally building a universe of characters for Tom Holland Spider-Man. So then you have to ask yourself, well, why didn't Tom Holland then go do those movies? The answer is Kevin Feige. And obviously a little bit of Tom himself, but so if I'm reading the tea leaves here, ooh, Nerd of the Rings, it's good to see you, brother. I was just telling everybody about the podcast. I'm so excited. So just walk with me on this, okay? So if you think about the 2019 situation, which was basically Sony seemingly out of nowhere grabbing Peter Parker back and saying, no, we're not going to do shit with Kevin Feige anymore, right? That happened in 2019, about 2 weeks, maybe a week before San Diego Comic-Con, right? And if you think back to what was going on then, it was obvious that Kevin had this big plan for Peter Parker. He wanted Tom Holland, Spider-Man, to be like one of the faces of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's confirmed in Joanna Robinson's good book. She did like a great breakdown of this, right? And then after Sony like grabs him back, remember there was an awkward interview that Tom Holland gave at, I believe, Keystone Comic-Con over in Philadelphia. And he said something to the effect of, we had this great run with Marvel. You know, it was awesome, and now I'm excited to see what we're going to do with Sony. Do you guys remember this? I don't know if you guys remember this, but that happened. And so if I'm like reading the tea leaves and just considering some of the stuff that I've heard behind the scenes, Feige was probably like, oh, hell no, I'm not going to let Tom go hang out in all of your bullshit movies. And then Rothman was like, oh, really? Well, we're not going to do shit with you anymore, Kevin, so he has to come do stuff with us. Then you had the moment where Holland does the drunken call to Bob Iger and like pleads and is like, this is my whole career, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They do a renegotiation of the deal. They do Spider-Man No Way Home. Marvel gets a bigger piece of the pie. They put up more of the money, et cetera, right? So the answer to your question is like, I think Sony was trying to build a universe, and then they were literally just like, hey, we just take Tom Holland and put him in these movies. And oh, but it were so simple. But it wasn't. And I think the reason it wasn't simple is because of Kevin Feige. I think he was so strong-handed behind the scenes in preventing Sony from having Tom Holland Spider-Man. And then I think Sony tried all sorts of different stuff to like get their own version of Spider-Man or do their own Spider-Man thing. But they're so inept as a studio, they couldn't figure it out. And perhaps the sort of dream of just making it Tom Holland was dangled in front of them enough by Feige that they would build plans around that only to get that rug pulled out from under them over and over and over again. So that's speculation, right? That's speculation, but that's informed speculation. I will say the reason that Spider-Man isn't in the Sony movies is partially because Sony is inept, but also partially because it is Kevin Feige, and that's what Feige wants to do. He didn't want that to happen, probably because of the quality of the movies, right? But yeah, and you know what else too? If you go all the way back, and this is for the OGs. How many of you guys remember John Schnepp? May he rest in peace. How many of you guys remember John Schnepp? One of the last exclusive scoops that John Schnepp had was that Tom Holland shot a scene for Venom 1. And I'm pretty sure that Schnepp also said that Kevin Feige made them take it out. So there's a lot of history to this relationship, to what they've been trying to do. And I would just answer it by saying that I think that Kevin wasn't about to let that shit go down. So that's a long-winded answer to your question there. Yeah. Yep. You can look it up. He did it on an episode of Heroes, I believe he talked about it. Yep. Pretty wild. Yeah, Schnepp was the GOAT, man. May he rest in peace. Okay, so are we 100% sure Spider-Man is in Doomsday? Yes, brother, we are. Okay, so in conclusion, chat, Spider-Man, they're not doing that bullshit at Sony anymore, which is absolutely incredible. Probably a new sort of shared universe or a new version of the Sony universe with Spider-Man. But that's not all. Amy Pascal had some pretty interesting comments about Spider-Man 4. This is via Deadline, but I'm just going to read the quote for you. Let's pull this over so you can see it. Amy Pascal on the story for Spider-Man 4. She said, we have to deal with the fact that he decided he was going to give up being Peter Parker. And he was going to focus on being Spider-Man because Peter Parker was too hard. So that's what the movie is about. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. I am going to pull up some comments from Alex Perez here because he puts context into them that's like really freaking cool. Let's see here. Okay, this is from one of Alex Perez's Discord Q&As. Because people basically, when they heard this comment from Amy, they were like, oh, that's what the movie's about? Well, what about all this like multiversal stuff? What about like the street level? And then he's, given a chance to be in a new universe and Aunt May's back and all that stuff, right? So people were like kind of calling Alex out. This is something he said a while ago. He said, this all leads to the next chapter in his story. The idea now moving forward is to give him a sense of independence. In his mind, Peter Parker is no more, but Spider-Man lives on. Since he has either lost or detached himself from everyone he's ever loved, all he has to do to keep going is being Spider-Man, whether the city loves him for it or not. And as the title of Spider-Man continues to consume Peter's life little by little, Peter Parker will take a back seat and continue to fade from existence slowly. This story point can be compared to Robert Pattinson's Batman in The Batman. So, we don't know exactly how all of this is going to work, right? But considering the spell and the context here, and some of the rumors with Doomsday and like Peter potentially being offered this thing, which, kind of seemingly contradicts some of this stuff, I had personally thought that maybe Peter would no longer be Spider-Man, and that was like a part of the deal. But it kind of seems like via the story that they're setting up, Peter Parker has faded from even the memories of Tom Holland, and he's just being this like hard-edged Spider-Man. Now, that is what Amy is saying the Spider-Man 4 movie is about. You add in some of the multiversal context, you add in the venom of it all, and I would speculate that, unless the rumors are true that Peter just gets his old life back, which, would kind of like undo some of this, then maybe what we're looking at here is Peter saying no to Doctor Doom's deal and then living in some kind of twisted timeline that kind of like works against him or something like that. But either way, this throws like a little bit of a monkey wrench into things that we have heard about Spider-Man 4. And I wanted to bring this up because there was I forget exactly what Scooper said this. I think it was either Cryptic HD or it was My Time to Shine. They said that a source came to them and said that every single person is wrong about Spider-Man 4. And I remember we talked about that on stream and we were like, what could that possibly mean? And I love speculating about this stuff and trying to like draw our own conclusions. But we might need to, especially with this news, we might need to rethink some of the things that we thought was going on and potentially like rework what we think the movie is. So that's kind of interesting. Now, I think there's also an option here, even though nobody's really saying it. Maybe what Amy is saying is actually directed more towards the story of Doomsday. And perhaps dealing with this, as she says, is actually Peter then undoing it and being in the false reality, right? So, like, I don't know if that makes sense what I'm saying here, but we have to deal with the fact that he decided he was going to give up being Peter Parker and then he was going to focus on being Spider-Man because being Peter Parker was too hard. That's what the movie is about. But how is it about that? Is it about that because Peter sort of reneges on this deal? Is this dealing with it actually kind of set up in Doomsday? And then the Spider-Man 4 plot deals with this by having him undo it in a monkey paw wish situation with Doctor Doom? You know, it kind of feels like that could be what they're cooking, right? These are very interesting comments. And again, like, you have to understand that, like, Amy's not going to talk via the rumor mill. She's going to talk more in perspective of what have the films they have set up led to, right? So I wanted to bring this up. It's kind of interesting, and I'm wondering too, do you guys have any thoughts, comments, questions, concerns about this story when it comes to Spider-Man 4? What do you think? Noel sucks, says BC. Interesting. Noel in Secret Wars? I'm not really sure. That's a huge question, right? How are they going to handle Noel? How are they going to have Noel and Doom and potentially all these other villains and not feel like they're stealing each other's shine? I'm not really sure. Not really sure. Doom will offer him a deal to get his life back, including Aunt May. Yeah, that's the conventional thinking right now. That's like the rumor. And maybe that's technically what Amy is saying. Like, that's how she's saying it. But it did kind of seem to a lot of people like this was flying in the face of that rumor, right? Because you think about like what she's saying, and it's like, okay, but then in Spider-Man 4, if he already makes the wish, then he's not really dealing with that anymore. But perhaps the wish is him dealing with it, right? Not really sure. Kind of an interesting situation. Yes. Interesting situation. Yes. Okay, not a lot of good questions in chat. That's okay. We're going to go right into the next subject, and we're going to talk about War fucking Hammer. So let me get this tweet pulled up here. Let me get this tweet pulled up by... Well, first here, this is what Henry Cavill said in his Instagram post. Okay, so let's go over this. And oh my God, I can't wait to get into this shit, bro. I cannot wait to get into this. Okay, so to celebrate some Warhammer news, I decided to make a pilgrimage to the very first place I bought Warhammer models over 30 years ago. The little shop on my home island of Jersey. My incredible team and I, alongside the brilliant minds at Games Workshop, have been working away in concept rooms, breaking down approaches to the enormity and magnificence of the Warhammer world. Together, we've been sifting through the plethora of incredible characters and poring over old tombs and texts. Our combined efforts have led us to a fantastic place to start our universe, which has been agreed upon by those on high at both Amazon and Games Workshop. That starting place shall, for now, remain a secret. Watch this space, though. More to come in time. Oh my God, it's real, and they figured it out. So, a couple of things, because we actually do have clarification in an article in the Hollywood Trades via Deadline, okay? But some context and some wags of the finger. So first of all, I am so sick of a bunch of culture war grifters that came into the Warhammer space on the heels of, albeit some pretty whack stuff that Games Workshop did, but they sunk their little teeth into this property and they started spreading a whole bunch of misinformation. And I'm so glad that they have all been proven to be total fucking buffoons. If you go search on YouTube right now, Henry Cavill Warhammer, you will see hundreds of thousands of views of videos of all of these fucking chuds that were making all these totally baseless vaporware bullshit, like pulled it out of their ass videos about how there was all this trouble with Amazon and fucking Henry Cavill's not going to do the show now because they're so woke and shit. Holy fuck. All of these idiots have now been proven wrong. And I'm so happy because I was literally watching this happen and I was like, this is amazing. Like, I can't believe they're literally just making this shit up because I actually know what's happening behind the scenes. I'm talking to people about what's happening behind the scenes. I can't believe they're literally just making this shit up. And then culture vulture people on YouTube are just eating it up. They're just like eating the slop up to the tune of hundreds of thousands of views on these fucking videos. It drove me insane. I gotta be honest, like, dude, you want to grift, you want to farm, that's totally fine. But when you take it to such a level that you are literally just making shit up, shame on you. And I would love to believe that a whole bunch of people now wake up and realize, oh my God, this person I've been following has been totally full of shit. But I don't even think that's true. So I'm going to do my best part to apply total fucking shame to you so that you never do this shit again because you're muddying the waters and you're not allowing people to actually understand what the fuck is going on. It's crazy to me. It's crazy to me. So I'm glad that this news has happened. Number one, because it makes all those chuds look like a bunch of fucking idiots, and they really are. Number two, this is just plainly incredible news. So for the past couple of years, because I think this announcement was made over 2 years ago with Henry Cavill, he has been quietly meeting with Games Workshop. There have been signs, right? Like there have been certain Instagram posts and certain signs and things that Cavill is doing. Some stuff that even the writers have said here and there in interviews. And they've been tackling this enormous thing and trying to figure it out. We also know via the investor call meetings and sort of like the notes from those meetings over the last 2 years that there was a hard date. I believe it was for December 20th of this year, that if a deal had not been reached, it would have actually fallen apart. It's kind of like you go into preliminary negotiations with somebody and you're like, we're all interested in this. We have to figure this shit out. If in 2 years we haven't figured it out, though, we're just going to drop the whole thing. We're just going to drop the whole thing and maybe we would come back eventually, but it's just not worth investment to keep going, right? So that was, I believe, targeted for December 20th. There was a sign in an early, or maybe no, it was mid-November financial report from Games Workshop proper, which did indicate that news was coming about the Cavill deal. So we kind of knew that something was cooking up, didn't know that it would fully come to fruition, right? Because here's part of the problem. Games Workshop is really, really protective of their IP. So sometimes people will ask me like, oh, okay, well, if Warhammer's so popular and so cool, why haven't we seen more live action Warhammer? I mean, for God's sakes, they made Dungeons and Dragons movies like in the fucking 80s, right? Like that old one with John Malkovich and shit. So like there's a logic that happens with, a lot of basically Americans. And they're like, well, if it's so big, if it's so popular, why hasn't it been licensed out? That's just what you do with a big IP. And that's true. The reason this hasn't happened with Games Workshop is they are very particular when it comes to lore. So much so that within the Space Marine 2 game, there are restrictions on certain pieces of armor and weapons that can be in the game because according to Games Workshop, with that actual lore, they can't exist at that time period, or this exact character would never use them. And so they will literally get that finicky with the game studio and be like, no, you can't do this. There's a little wiggle room there. So if you're like super hardcore into Warhammer, you might be like, oh, but they are bringing in the beak helmets. That actually shouldn't match there because these are Primaris Marines, not Firstborn Marines. I hear you. There's a little wiggle room there, but the point remains. By and large, Games Workshop is maybe the most restrictive company, the most protective company that there is when it comes to their IP. So that was a huge potential hang up for what was going to be going forward. Because you have Games Workshop, very particular with their IP. You have Henry Cavill, very particular and protective of IP. There are countless stories of Cavill getting into arguments and creating a toxic work environment on The Witcher show because, God forbid, he wanted to actually stay true to the lore of the characters in the books and, a little bit of the games, but really more of the books. And people fucking hated that. That's who he was with Superman, too. Technically speaking, Cavill butted heads with Zack Snyder about evil, dark Superman. It's documented. We don't have to go down the whole thing, but that's true because Cavill is a purist for the lore, for the source material. So you have Games Workshop, then you got Henry Cavill, then you've got Amazon, okay? Now, Amazon, they probably just want the IP. They just want to do the big bucks money thing, right? But Amazon is also getting a little bit more particular with how they craft these sort of things. I think in the wake of Rings of Power, if I'm being completely honest with you, I think Rings of Power, even though they're not going to fully admit this, I think it was a big, big fail. I think they're losing a ton of money on that show. And I think they're also losing capital with certain groups of fans. And they're just not liking how the conversation and narrative are forming around Rings of Power. Now, if you look at the Fallout show, it does seem like they learned their lesson. Because the Fallout show has the actual Todd from Bethesda as a part of how to craft and build that narrative and make it true to the world of Fallout. And Fallout, not only was it dope as fuck, it got nominated for 17 Emmys. It was in the top of the Nielsen charts for months. Fallout dominated, dude. It absolutely crushed. So you can see how all of these entities were going to be eager to work together, but they all probably had things that they needed to iron out before they could commit to an actual deal. So what has happened is that shit has been ironed out. And so now it's real. And if we wanted to ask, well, what will be the first project in this deal? I think we'll get something of a tease here in this article in the Hollywood trades. Warhammer 40,000 TV series with Henry Cavill in development at Amazon under deal with Games Workshop. Okay, so right away, we have details that Cavill did not talk about. TV series. Interesting. Exactly 2 years after Amazon MGM Studios acquired global rights to Warhammer 40,000 games from Games Workshop for Henry Cavill to star in and executively produce a cinematic universe. Exactly 2 years, baby. It's exactly 2 years to the date. Oh my God, it feels so good. There has been movement on the project. The first piece of potential franchise, a TV series, is now officially in development at the studio. According to sources, a mini room was assembled to hone in on a creative direction for the Warhammer universe. Oh my God. Based on the material produced by the writer, a decision was made to proceed with the development of a TV series as the first project, sources said. No showrunner has been locked in yet, with the deal being hammered out. Timing is not a coincidence. In its annual fiscal report filed in July, Games Workshop noted that the company and Amazon had until December 2024, we just talked about that, to mutually agree on creative guidelines for the film television series to be developed by Amazon. For the streamer to retain the rights originally acquired in December of 2022 and extend for another 12 months a year later. Cavill teased a new phase of the Warhammer 40,000 screen adaptation, which has been a passion project for him on Instagram. My incredible team and I, along with the brilliant minds, we already read that shit, but it's so freaking cool. Warhammer 40,000 is set in the far future where humanity stands at the edge of what might be its brightest future or darkest age. You don't know shit about Warhammer. The rest of humankind, empire are many traitors driven by fire, ambition, alien, blah, 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 blah. Vertigo Entertainment's Roy Lee and Natalia Vescoso partnered with Cavill to source the Warhammer 40,000 IP before taking it to Amazon. Vertigo executive produced with Cavill and GAW's Andy Simile and Max Bertrill alongside Amazon. I have loved Warhammer since I was a boy, making this moment truly special for me, Cavill said at the rhyme of the initial Amazon announcement. The opportunity to shepherd this cinematic universe from its inception is quite the honor and responsibility. So, I guess the only details to come out of this article, other than what we saw from Henry, is that there was a mini room assembled, And because of one of the writers in that room putting forth some work, they decided to go with a show potentially first. Okay. And so we know it's going to be a series likely to be actually on Prime Video. And this is the beginning of the actual universe. So, epic shit happening. It's finally real. The Chuds were wrong, of course. And we're getting the show put in development based on the writer's room. Now, if I had to guess, in fact, let me see something here. I'm going to put a guess out there. This is just theory, okay? This is just theory. I think they're going to adapt this book right here. Valdor. I think they're going to adapt this book right here. Now, some people will say, and I think I've already seen people speculating this. Some people think it'll be like the Beckwin series with that one Inquisitor that Cavill actually looks a lot like. I'm totally blanking on the name right now. I don't think so. So one of the things that Cavill says there that's kind of interesting is like they've been tackling the sort of daunting amount of Warhammer lore and trying to figure out how do we attack this whole thing with like one step at a time? And what's the best way to kind of like establish that? So I basically think you need a couple of different things to accomplish that correctly. You need to establish the Emperor. You need to establish the Primarchs. You need to establish the Warp and the Chaos Gods. And you need to establish like the other aliens and, you know, relations of all of that. But those are pretty central and pretty important, right? And the reason I like the Valdor book for doing that is it's a book that talks about the first custodian, Constantine Valdor. And this is at a time when the Emperor he has just created the Primarchs, okay? And they are in the process of creating the Space Marines for the first time. And the Imperial Palace is being built. And I think it would be a really brilliant way to establish Earth or Terra within the Warhammer world and show you how the Emperor was changing things. Because, like, he's crazy. And what he does is insane. He builds the palace in the Tibetan mountains where nobody says people can live or you can build shit. And the whole reason he does it is because he wants a golden palace that people said would be impossible to tower over the entire planet. It's like the size of Europe, too. Like, the palace ends up being fucking massive, right? But, yeah, for me, man, I think that's the route you go with the Warhammer show because it would, like, establish a lot of the pieces that you need. We'll see, though. I bet more stuff will leak out about it. More stuff will happen. Maybe there's people whispering right now about what it could actually be. So the main thing to take away here, guys, it's real. The Amazon Warhammer Henry Cavill universe is happening. It's going to begin with a show. And oh my God, I'm going to be following this thing very closely. I'm going to be making a lot of content about this. And Nerd of the Rings and I are going to start a podcast, a Warhammer podcast, right now at the inception of the Warhammer Cinematic Universe. And I said this before, I'm going to say it again. I sound like a broken record. This has the potential to be as big as Game of Thrones, as big as Lord of the Rings. This has the potential to be as big as the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We could be witnessing the birth of literally the next big thing. And there are so many reasons as to why I feel that way. This is what Henry wants to do. This is what Games Workshop wants to do. This is what Amazon wants, dude. Amazon wants that shit. They want the next big thing. So this is incredible. It's a dream come true. I'm geeking the fuck out over here. So I'll open it up to the chat. What do you guys think? Any questions, comments, concerns? MCU is a reach. Of course. I mean, when it comes to Marvel, Marvel is the most successful franchise of all time. I mean, it's like 30 plus billion at this point. Just in terms of licensing, residuals, impact, nothing else is even close. Like there technically are brands that have made a shit ton of money. Like I believe the Harry Potter IP is relatively close, but I think it's only made like what, 8 to 10 billion total. So you're talking about Marvel literally making 3 times as that, right? Marvel's crazy. And for Warhammer to be as big as the MCU, we would have to be talking about event movies that would be making billions of dollars each, right? That's what we talk about when we're talking about Marvel. Event movies, like just think of the Infinity Saga. And I think this will be replicated in Doomsday and Secret Wars, right? You're talking about event, appointment, television and movies that builds to big event things that go over billions of dollars. And I'm telling you, Warhammer can be that. Warhammer absolutely can be that. It would have to be crafted the right way, and they would need to get a lot of success, right? Another thing that I would say in response to that question is there's big time rumors we're about to get Game of Thrones movies. Okay? So, Game of Thrones, massive, very successful original television show, successful spinoff, has another spinoff as well. Big rumors that Game of Thrones is making its way to the movie theaters. And I think if done correctly, those Game of Thrones movies could be billion-dollar movies. So we have a path forward to get Warhammer to be in that conversation, to be that prolific. Holy shit. I'm losing my mind. I'm so excited. Aaliyah says, is it true that Gina Carano will be in Warhammer? It is like way too early to tell. That, like, I don't know where that's coming from. That's probably coming from the same chuds that were telling you Cavill's leaving it because it's too woke, right? I mean, could she be in it? Absolutely. She used to date Cavill. She's kind of a badass. Yeah, that would be great. Josh, serious question. What stops this from being Rebel Moon or Wheels of Time, in your opinion? Is it Cavill, or have I just not listened to a word you said? Rossi, thanks for the gifted. I would say Cavill's a big part of it, but really it's more Games Workshop. Like, and look, I don't love everything that Games Workshop does. You know, some of their stuff is really frustrating to me. As somebody that actually plays the game, like, I'm pretty fucking incredibly mad at Games Workshop in a lot of different ways when it comes to their game. But they're very protective of that lore, bro. And we've watched some Warhammer content, some animated stuff that they've done. Tonight on Twitch, we will watch the Secret Level episode. And I think after you watch the Secret Level episode, which there's no coincidence as to why this news came out now. Like, brother, they're already cooking. Like, they're already cooking with how they are lining up these announcements. But after you watch the Secret Level tonight, I think you'll kind of get it a little bit more. You'll be like, oh, shit, like, yeah, I could see that live action. I could see that expanded. I think Space Marine 2 was a good example because, you know, Space Marine 2 is kind of, it's not super deep as a game, but what it does amazing. And you get a scope for the Warhammer world. You play through that game, you play through the story, and you just get a sense of like the scope and the vibes and the feel and all of that sort of stuff. So how is it going to be different than Wheel of Time? Well, because Cavill, Games Workshop, and Amazon have come to like a consensus. It's the shepherding of the brand that I trust from Games Workshop. I trust Cavill, and I trust Amazon to at least know that it's valuable and give it the proper budget it needs. That's really all I need from Amazon. Right? So yeah, that would be kind of like my answer to that question. I think that people are going to have concerns. Like, here, I'll tell you this, man, and not to like continue to shit on the Star Wars fans, but you know, when I got into Warhammer and I kind of like became a part of different communities and like just watched how the discourse went in the Warhammer fandom, they are terrified of becoming Star Wars. Like, they see what happened to Star Wars and they're terrified that that would happen. So a lot of them are not even necessarily super excited about this deal happening because they fear, like you maybe bring up, that Hollywood's going to Hollywood and Hollywood's going to continue to ruin good shit. Right? So, yeah, and I think it's appropriate. Like, it's appropriate to be terrified because, yeah, Hollywood going to Hollywood, right? But, I mean, with Cavill there and him getting the back, of Games Workshop, and, like, I think we're going to find out what writers they've been assembling. There's been some teases and whatnot of what it is. Yeah, I think we're in good hands. If they hadn't creatively figured it out, they would have just not did it. You know what I'm saying? The average person will most definitely not tune in for Warhammer. Why do you think that? Star Wars still and will always be bigger than Warhammer, even on its worst day. Yeah, I disagree, brother. I disagree. I'm jumping that ship. I am jumping that ship, and I am putting the faith in Warhammer. I think it'll be something that will serve a lot of the Star Wars fans that are absolutely furious and completely checked out from what Disney is currently doing. They need Dan Abnett. I think Dan is involved, yeah. Josh, aside from the lore, what about characters? I'm curious to know more about that side of the writing. Care to enlighten? Yeah, so one of the things that's really cool about Warhammer, particularly with their like demigods, right? So the way this works is, man, it's going to be kind of tough to explain. Some of these are great ideas that like literally Matt and I can go over in the podcast and like try to break down, because I'd love to know his thoughts on this shit too, right? But here's like my answer for you. The Emperor himself is a fascinating character. He's seemingly bipolar. He contradicts himself a lot. There's always a question in the lore of like, oh, well, is the Emperor doing this because he knows it'll lead to something else? So he's using like prescience and doing things that he has to do because he's, has this ultimate goal. There's a lot of like mystery about his motives and what's going on. But beyond that, most of the really good shit in Warhammer is all of the Emperor's sons. Okay? So the Emperor's sons, he has 20 demigod sons, which he uses actually the power of the Chaos Gods and some secret hidden knowledge that he trades on this place called Moloch. It's like really mysterious and weird. So he creates 20 demigod sons. And these sons, that's where your character shit happens. And it's so fascinating. So one of the sons is named Leman Russ. He is the leader of the Space Wolves. He is a big old, like, Viking-esque, just brawler. Like a just hard as nails. Think of like Odin or Thor. Just tough, rough, savage as fuck. Leman Russ. Okay? Then you've got other ones like the Lionel Johnson, this like Arthurian knight. He lands on a planet called Caliban and becomes like a messianic figure, and he is all about strategy, and he's into like all of these crazy things of technology and shit like that. And those two characters have a particular rivalry and a beef, because the Space Wolves were like the Emperor's enforcers. So if a planet or if something was going badly and the Emperor wanted to make a statement, he would send the Space Wolves. And the Space Wolves would ravage and pillage and fuck shit up. And then everybody would be like, holy shit, the fucking Space Wolves, right? But the Dark Angels, Lionel Johnson, they get sent if you just need something gone. So, like, people would say, well, didn't there, like, used to be a planet over there? What happened to that? And nobody would have any fucking idea. That's the Dark Angels. But the Space Wolves, they go and they're known about, and everybody knows, and they're like, oh, shit, that's crazy. So then Lehman and Lionel Johnson, they have a rivalry based on that. And that's just 2 of the 20. Like, it's fascinating. There's like a vampire golden hawk boy named Sanguinius. He's a fascinating character. Some of the chaos ones like Magnus, he's a fascinating character. Fucking Fulcrum's fascinating. Horus, of course, very interesting, fascinating character. Yeah, so like that's where you get a lot of the like flavor. Like if you were to say the Avengers of the Warhammer universe, it's all the Primarchs. And then they have a civil war. Right? They have a civil war and like half of the Primarchs fight against the other half of the Primarchs. It's fucking crazy. So like that's how I would answer your question. Yeah. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to the Chris Evans news. This shit is bananas. This is bananas, dude. So this news absolutely shook the internet yesterday. An exclusive by Humberto Gonzalez over at The Wrap, okay, one of the Hollywood trades. So this is about as confirmed can get. Now, I do want to mention, too, there's way more to this story. And I have a big video. I was up this morning. I recorded a big video about all the rumors, all the things I've heard, what they're really cooking with Chris Evans. If you want the full, leaked, sweet, disgusting details, you're going to have to check out the video. We're going to keep it pretty spoiler-free while talking about this, but we'll go over it from a news perspective. So, Chris Evans is returning to the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a part of the cast for Avengers Doomsday, the highly anticipated sequel that will star Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom. The Wrap has learned exclusively. Evans will be involved in some capacity, but the extent and exact nature of his role is unknown. Okay? After sunsetting his Steve Rogers character in 2019's Avengers Endgame, Evans recently made a brief MC return in this summer's Deadpool and Wolverine, but as his character Johnny Storm from Fox's Fantastic Four movies, not as Captain America. The Russo brothers, who directed both Evans and Downey Jr. in Captain America Civil War, Avengers Infinity War, and Endgame, are returning to direct Doomsday and the direct sequel, Secret Wars. Avengers Doomsday is slated for release on May 1st, 2026. Evans' return to the MCU has long been rumored in fanboy circles. That's literally what we're doing right here. We're in fanboy circles. But Marvel declined to comment. The circumstances of his return are of particular interest, given that his Steve Rogers character was an old man by the end of Avengers Endgame. But Downey Jr. is returning to Marvel as a Tony Stark variant. Maybe not, but either way, he's going to be not Tony Stark. So all options are on the table. Interesting that they would put that in the article. Evans' team did not immediately respond to the Wrap's request for comment. Evans last appeared as Captain America in 2019's Avengers Endgame. Anthony Mackie is Captain America in the current iteration of the MCU, and he'll next be seen in Marvel's film Captain America Brave New World, opposite Harrison Ford, which opens February 14th. Evans first appeared as a super soldier in Okay, whatever. Yeah. Okay, so a bunch of goobly glob at the end. Okay, so according to Humberto, and this was corroborated by a lot of different people, Evans is back for Avengers Doomsday. So First thing is massive fucking W. Holy shit. Oh my God. Now, that's I think the majority of the feeling. There are some people, like I saw some people that are just like really grumpy motherfuckers being like, oh, why did we even have Endgame then? Like, characters die and then they're just getting brought back. And there's like some of that grumpy energy out there. But for the most part, people are really excited that Chris Evans is coming back for Doomsday. So that's number one. Number two, this is a surprise. Okay, I saw a whole nother batch of people out there that are like, this isn't even a surprise. Everybody knew he was coming back, blah, blah, blah. Of course he's coming back. That's technically true. But what everybody was saying was that he was going to come back for Secret Wars, not for Doomsday. Remember, Doomsday was the Kang Dynasty. And we know, because we were following the rumors closely for the Kang Dynasty for years, that the Kang Dynasty was not really going to be the movie where all the multiversal variants came back. It was instead going to be in Secret Wars. Now, in the original version, right, it seemed like what was going to happen was the Kangs were going to be fighting against the Avengers in in the Kang Dynasty. And then after that, they were going to lose. Basically, the Avengers were going to lose. Kang, or the Beyonder Kang, was going to win. Then we would get into Secret Wars. And Secret Wars was the movie we all expected RDJ's Iron Man to pop back up. Secret Wars is the movie we expected Chris Evans as Captain America to pop up. Secret Wars is the movie that we thought, oh, they're going to bring Toby back, Hugh back, all of these different people back. So the fact that Evans is confirmed for Doomsday is surprising. So anybody out there that's saying it's not surprising, they are lying. Or they weren't really paying attention to the rumor mill. The rumor mill said Secret Wars. So this is different, right? It is different. Now, they say in the article, they're not sure what role he will be taking. Now, there are all kinds of options here. Okay, number one, and maybe the most lame, would be that he comes back as Johnny Storm again. And there's another variant of Johnny Storm that maybe is a gag character and they rip his skin off again and they kill him. I don't think so, though. I don't think that's what it is. Another option would be that he is Steve Rogers' Captain America, but he just comes at the end of the movie to set up some kind of cliffhanger. That is possible. Because I really don't think that Marvel Studios is going to take the first Avengers movie where Sam Wilson as Cap is the leader and then just like have Steve come in as Captain America, take the shield back and be like, yo, I'll take it from here. Some of you might want that to happen, but that's not what is going to happen. That's not how Marvel does things, right? So they're not just going to have him come in there and, bitch out Sam Wilson, Captain America. Well, that only leaves, one other option. And that option would be that this is an evil variant of Captain America. And of course, there are long-standing rumors that Marvel would do a Hydra Captain America, because in Marvel Comics, it was a pretty controversial run, actually. Nick Spencer created Secret Empire, and it was a whole story that made Captain America become a Hydra agent, and he was Hydra Captain America, and he basically took over the entire planet. It was awesome, controversial, fun. And we know that that's been a long-standing rumor, okay? Now, I don't want to go too far into spoilers because there's some other stuff, and I want to save stuff for the video later today, but I will just say that is the direction I am leaning towards. I also think this makes certain other rumors more likely now. And some of those other rumors are like unbelievable. So this could be the first domino to drop in a series that's going to lead to some pretty crazy revelations about Avengers Doomsday. Okay, so that's all I'll say on that part. Now, from just fandom kind of perspective here, either way, this is dope as hell. Like, a lot of this seemingly goes back to that Tatiana Siegel article that was written, I think, in 2021, right? And I remember this article. It made super big waves. A lot of people were freaking out about it. But one of the things that Tatiana said in there, and I think she was spot on, was that there have been discussions about bringing all of the OG Avengers back. She literally said that. She said Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. Well, guess what? They're back. They're going to be back in Doomsday. Now, I guess the question becomes, like, are fans going to feel like this is just a cheap trick? Is this more Marvel slop? Is this, not really story driven? Is it just break glass in case of emergency, like Palpatine in The Rise of Skywalker? And I think there's, of course, going to be some fans that feel that way. I think that there will be a little bit of pushback, from fandom on this. But by and large, I don't really think so. I think most people are excited to have Chris Evans back. The fact that he's going to be back with Robert Downey Jr. in the next Avengers movie, for many of us, myself included, this is like a dream come true that's like 5-6 years in the making. Like, the way I would say it is this, right? They were always going to come back. It's not my fault that the space in between them leaving and coming back was mostly goobly glob from Marvel Studios. And so now it feels a little bit more desperate. Now it feels a little bit more like a harsh turn. But that's not my fault. That's Marvel's fault for making a couple of years of some goobly glob bullshit content. They were always going to circle back, and it would have maybe felt a little bit more natural and surprising had Marvel been still killing it, right? Like, it would have been more surprising because we would have been like, oh, well, dude, Marvel's killing it. This new team of Avengers is doing great. People are responding to these characters. This is absolutely incredible. Oh, shit, the OGs are coming back. Wow, that's shocking. And instead, now it feels a little bit more like, yeah, of course they're coming back because nobody gives a shit about these current Avengers, right? But that's just like how things played out. I still think it was always planned. So this is massive news. And one last thing I'll say about this before I look at your questions, comments, and stuff. If you look at how this news traveled yesterday and like the amount of impressions, the amount of people talking about it, watch how many people talk about it today. It just continues to prove that Marvel is still the biggest thing in the world. Even the haters are going to talk about Chris Evans, Captain America, coming back to the MCU today. Now, they might put a negative spin on it, but they know that's the hottest show in town. They know that's the biggest thing. And watching this news yesterday absolutely blow the fuck up was just really reassuring to me as a fan, where I'm like, bro, they still got it. And by the way, this isn't even close to the craziest shit that they're cooking. It's not even close. So once a couple other of these things start coming out, oh my God, bro. A lot of people are going to realize that Doomsday and Secret Wars absolutely can be as big as Infinity War and Endgame. I think there's still a lot of doubt about that, but just wait until you hear what else they are cooking. We are about to enter peak MCU. The next couple of years will be absolutely fascinating because if you think this is the only rumor that's out there circulating, you're wrong. Within the next couple of weeks, we're going to get some serious answers. I'm going to make some serious content. And this is still just the beginning. This is literally just the beginning. I expect some of what we're talking about right now to be potentially teased in a more serious way at San Diego Comic-Con next year. Like, this shit is about to go crazy. And I personally cannot wait. So that's the news with regards to Chris Evans. I'm so excited. Oh my God, I'm so excited. What do you guys think? Any questions, comments, concerns? Where does Jeff fit into all of this? Hopefully nowhere. Won't be long until Scarlett Johansson return is confirmed. Yeah, she's coming. Joshua Kimball Bluegrass, thanks for the 10 spot, brother. Says, my theory is that Evans is coming back as Cap Hydra in Doomsday, and then his original Rogers is going to get mixed up in the multiverse, returning the stones, and end up on Battleworld and Secret Wars. Yeah, I think so. Rob, what up, brother? I think that's a good theory, man, because I still think the Nomad show or the Cap show is real. And so this is how you can accomplish, multiple things where, you're going to set up a Hydra Cap, and then the OG Steve has to come back and face off against them. Yeah, no? Rob, what up, though? Rob, you playing Marvel Rivals with me tonight on stream? Marvel Rivals on stream. It's going to be juicy. We want to hear Rob now? What time is it? How long have we been streaming for? I could potentially talk to Rob for a little bit. When are we playing Rivals? So I'll be live at 7:30, Rob. I've got to watch a little bit of Warhammer with the chat, so I'll probably be playing Rivals at like 8 p.m. I'd say like 8 p.m. is probably when I'll be getting it started. Joshua says, meanwhile, Hydra Cap gets killed off sometime. Maybe. Maybe. Yeah. I know it's only been an hour and a half, but I have like an incredibly busy day. I have a lot of stuff I have to get to today. So I probably can't actually stream too much longer, but we'll be streaming tonight. Tied up working on a project, so I can't chat. Yeah, no worries, brother. I'm kind of tied up too. Yeah, we'll chat tonight. It'll be good. We don't have to watch Warhammer. I mean, you don't. I do. All right, let me catch up on some of the super chats and member chats. I'm sure I missed a few. And then we're gonna get on out of here, guys. All right, let's see here. Javier, thanks again, brother. First in with a diamond. Rossi says, Christmas came early for Josh today. Hashtag the Chaos Realm. Yeah, man, you're not wrong. I was so excited to wake up and hear about this Warhammer stuff. It's hyped as hell, man. Rossi, again, thank you for the rose. Ibsy, thank you, brother. Says, Josh, when are we getting most anticipated 2025 stream? Towards the end of the year. I have a lot of streams like planned, recapping 2024, looking forward to 2025. That'll be its own stream. So yeah, absolutely. We'll get that going. Noah says Den of Hut. Yeah. Isn't that hilarious, dude? The Hut news. I can't believe it. Noah says Warhammer propaganda. Rivals is hype though. Yeah. See, even Noah is understanding and accepting that, Warhammer is dope. What the here is Warhammer? Don't worry. We're going to start explaining it. Kendall says new Nerdvenger alert. My son Caleb was born Saturday. New son, healthy wife, Rivals W, side business booming. Life is good right now. My love to you and Elisa. Brother, congratulations, man. Caleb, born on Saturday. Can we get some W's in the chat for Kendall and for Caleb and for healthy wife? W, man. That's fantastic news, brother. I'm glad that things are rolling for you. We are going to have Athena within the next couple of weeks, so we're really excited for that too. By the way, Caleb is a name that we were going to name Athena if she was going to be a boy. In fact, I'm pretty sure Elisa took a blood test and it said that it was going to be a boy. We thought it was going to be a girl. Then the blood test kind of threw us for a loop, and then we were like, okay, well, let's name him Caleb. But no, we were right. The blood test was wrong. It's Athena. So that is kind of interesting. Kaylin says Star Wars is cooked. Huge L. Yeah, 100%. It's laughable at this point. Kendall says fire KK and reboot Star Wars. Yeah, it's probably a good move. Santos says I feel 40K is too dense for a TV world. Where do you start? What needs to be explained first? How do you not instantly lose the normal fans' interest? Yeah, I mean, look, that's a tricky question. That's literally what they've been working on for like 2 years, right? So that's like what Cavill and his people have been working on for like 2 years. They probably had narrowed it down to a couple different ideas, and that's when they like assembled the mini room. But basically, man, you need to establish the Imperium of Mankind. You need to establish the Emperor. You need to establish the Primarchs. You need to establish Chaos and the Chaos Gods. And then there's like a lot of other stuff. But the thing that's beautiful about Warhammer is like every single thing within it has like so much lore, right? So it's been developed for so many years, mostly via novels and short stories, that you really have had this like relatively small group of writers that are very talented and very passionate about it. And they've been crafting it really well. It reminds me of the EU because, you know, something that was going on in the EU that like we don't give enough credit for those writers to. A lot of the EU writers were formulating a think tank on their own. On their own. And even Dave Filoni, when he was creating the Clone Wars, he was working with some of the writers when they were developing like Legacy of the Force and they were building Abeloth. They conferred with Filoni, not officially, but he gave them notes and was like, yeah, so you're doing this. I'm kind of doing this too. That's wild. Let's combine them and make them the same thing. And the reason they did that was not for some contractual or marketable reason. It was because they love those characters and stories and they wanted it to feel like an actual shared lived-in universe. That's what the Warhammer writers have been doing since like the 80s. So that lore is toit. It is very toit. So yeah, it's dense, but I think you just establish the main players, you establish the main theme, and then the basic plot, or rather the main driving force of like getting people into Warhammer is going to have to be like the corruption of chaos, basically like people going to the dark side, and how that is met with this really hard authoritarian military might of the Emperor of Mankind. So like that's kind of the core conflict is, on the one hand, you think, okay, the Imperium, bad. They do all sorts of bad stuff, which is absolutely fair. But then when you look at the actual bad guys in the setting, whether it's like the Drukhari that torture human beings, wear their skin around as a prize, they're like super fucked up to the point that like if you get captured by Drukhari, you try to kill yourself because otherwise you're going to be facing like really grotesque torture for a long, long time. Or the Chaos Gods themselves that are turning people into demons or turning people into piles of like bile and pus, you know, for Nurgle. That's the basic conflict, is like order and authoritarianism versus like even darker evil, like truly sadistic and twisted evil. That's like the core conflict that you have to kind of establish for the audience. Yeah. Kendall says it's over because Doom is making one timeline. Yeah, I addressed that already. Meet Norma says, I have a terrible idea. Let's spend $300 million on a Spider-Man movie, but not have the Spider-Man in the movie. What could go wrong? I know, right? Isn't it crazy that not only is that like real and that's what they did, but it took them this long to figure that out. Like, that's wild to me, brother. Like, to take this long to figure that out, that shit's wild. Joshua says, Feige is a hero for this. I mean, he's looking like a hero right now. I think he did also add some unnecessary difficulty there. But then when you look at what Sony's doing, you're like, I kind of get it, right? I kind of get it. Is Jabba going to be in Spider-Man 4? Probably. Dar Boyd says, have you read any of the Rivals lore unlocks yet? I have a strong feeling they're going to be important for Secret Wars. I actually agree with you, but I haven't looked into them exactly. But even just the base idea of Doom being the villain, of the multiverse and universe being shattered, and they're all trying to like put it back together and figure it out. Like, a lot of that feels like it lines up with Secret Wars, right? So interesting. Noah says, does Amy have full control in Spider-Man 4? No. Can you explain the MCU Sony dynamic in that regard? Oh, you're asking me a question, the answer to which is in like a novel. Let me try to explain it. So technically, Sony and Amy have the total and full control, but Feige is like very assertive. Feige was giving them notes even during Andrew Garfield's shit. And we know this because of the leaked Sony emails. So Kevin will often, according to like what has been leaked, he'll assert a lot of opinion and a lot of notes on all of these different kind of things that Sony is doing. And I think they're smart to like take some of it into consideration. But Sony, I believe, makes the final call on these sort of things. But like Feige has this like weird inordinate level of power where like if you look at the last deal where that whole thing fell apart in 2021 or maybe it was 2019, there was no leverage just from a contractual perspective that Kevin had. They had the license for a while. They worked out a deal. It wasn't renewed. Sony owns the license. There was literally nothing he could do. So how, with no contractual leverage at all, did Feige get Tom Holland back in the MCU? Well, the answer is he's able to leverage the platform he has. He's able to leverage how fans love the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And he's able to leverage how his actor loved working with him over working with the studio. So that's like kind of a brief explanation of like how I think it's going down. Kyber Sith says his angels with the sock face and everything like that. Yeah. Fair. Let's see here. Crazy 8 says, man, I should make a Warhammer channel. Maybe you should. Vandolph says, which ones are you more excited about, 40K or Secret Wars? I'm feeling 40K because I'm more TTRPG and lore than comic books as I grow older. I'm more excited for Secret Wars, but they're close. I think with Warhammer, the potential is so great, but we're just getting started. So, like, I'm excited for it, but it's more like in terms of I'm excited in the same way I was when the MCU was kicking off, where it's like, oh, this feels different. It feels like they really get it. Their adaption's going to be different. And that was true. Like, of Marvel Phase 1, like, that shit was fantastic. But it's a totally different vibe when you're talking about Secret Wars. Because what Secret Wars is not just a studio adapting IP. This is the greatest producer of all time with, right now, the biggest IP on the planet. And he's literally he's trying to outdo the most pop culturally relevant event of my lifetime in Infinity War and Endgame. And I actually see a path forward that he could do that. That is shit that's like, you can't really compare that to like, oh, Warhammer's getting started. Now, if Warhammer proved to be like if they proved that they could really do this shit and then they announced like a Horus Heresy movie or like they announced something like really big, then we're talking. Then you're talking about something that like, wow, I can really start to get hyped up about. But like, does that make sense? Like they're just kind of different. MCU Drew says, where are the Game of Thrones films supposed to be about? We have no idea, brother. Dunkin' Egg would be perfect. Aldo, why is your hair dark? Oh, no, this is just my natural roots coming through, brother. Kaylin says, I think Warhammer is different enough for normies like myself that people will tune in, and it's on Prime, which is a win. Yeah, I mean, being on Prime makes it very accessible. You know, Prime has big numbers. Even Rings of Power, despite all the flack and all the baggage, it does pretty big numbers, especially compared to like fucking Penguin and Agatha, right? So yeah, that's a low barrier for entry. I think it's going to depend on how they bring people in for sure. But I also think that due to franchises like Game of Thrones, even Dune, you know, Star Wars to a degree, Marvel, I think audiences are more primed than ever for something like this, where a lot of you were saying like, oh, this is going to be a hang up for normies. I actually think most normies have been converted to, if they're not like full-on nerds. They're like nerdy curious, meaning they like a big franchise that allows them to go down rabbit holes and watch YouTube videos on and, you know, read books about, right? Like that's the whole fucking thing, right? Like that's what Star Wars wanted to be. So I don't know that there is actually as much hang up as you guys are saying, but I guess we'll find out. Exposeri says the fact that they announced Evans, especially this early, tells me he's going to have a major role in the film. Oh, I agree. Otherwise, I think they would just have him play the werewolf game. Yep, that's a good point. Kyber Sith says, we want that Avengers theme song back in theaters. Dude, I want it so bad. Oh my God, I want it so bad. Star Wars Oddball, welcome back to the Nerd Avengers, brother. It's good to have you. Nerd of the Rings says, quick prediction. Who does Cavill play in the series? Do you think we get a Titus story, banking on the popularity of Space Marine 2, or something different? Nerd Hammer! Appreciate you, brother. Here's what I think. I think he's going to play Valdor. And we can talk about this on the pod, too. But he's talked about this a little bit before. In fact, let me see if I can find the interview where he's asked about this. Let's see here. Henry Cavill asked who he'd play in Warhammer. Is this the one?
Geekiest thing would have to be my Warhammer stuff.
Nah.
We're doing the Games Workshop, aren't we? Yeah. Yeah.
Henry Cavill. I'd have to find. This might be it.
Point.
Yeah.
One other thing, I know it's early days, but Warhammer. I mean, there's nothing more close to your heart than this. I know this.
That is true.
There are a few other things.
Well, yes.
I mean,
yeah.
Cal.
Professionally speaking.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a heart outside of work.
He does. He does.
Yeah.
But it must be so exciting to be able to actually like dive into this world and be the one of the ones that is just steering the ship and figuring out what the world you want to create is on film and TV. What's this experience been like so far?
It is the greatest privilege of my professional career to have this opportunity. I can't say too much again. It's early days still, but to have this opportunity to bring it to the screen and be at the tiller so it can be faithful.
Hell yeah.
Is key to me. And
Key, baby.
This is the stuff I've been dealing with since I was a kid. It's this sort of is the stuff I spend my free time daydreaming about as an adult as well.
Same.
And I get to bring it into life. And
I mean, look, I don't, you know, like, we're basically the same person. You know, Henry and I, we're basically the same person, same vibes, same look, same physique, you know.
There is no greater reason than I joined the industry than doing something like this. And I'm very happy to be here.
Have you tried to get Matthew into Warhammer or gaming at all?
No, not
Gaming.
yet.
I love gaming. Wouldn't be gaming at all. But we've spoken.
Yeah.
I'd just say I'd work with Henry in lots of different ways.
Yeah, watch the space.
I am absolutely loving.
It's Valrak. That's my buddy right there. Yeah, no, there's got to be an interview, and I got to find it, man. I can't find it offhand, obviously. But there's an interview where they ask him about this, and so there's an Inquisitor that looks just like Cavill. I'm blanking on this fucking guy's name right now. I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. But people asked him if he was going to play that character, and he said, well, it would be hard to be a lowly Inquisitor when Valdor's right there. That's literally what he said verbatim. So, and he goes on to like talk about the Primarchs and stuff like that too, but trust me, he's a Custodes player, and he's mentioned Valdor already. He's going to be Constantine Valdor, 100%. In my opinion, of course. Jay Morris says, FKK, she ruined my childhood. Enough said. I know, but now Henry Cavill can give you a new childhood. Braden Thompson says, man, Henry is really one of us. A huge nerd. Oh, yeah, dude. He's super nerdy. He's super nerdy. and it's exciting. Eisenhorn, that's it. Thank you. Yeah, let me see if I can find that. Asked about Eisenhorn. Eisenhorn. Let's see here. He talks Eisenhorn 2 years ago. Okay, this is from Valrak as well. Let's see.
Hello brothers and welcome back to another video. So Henry Cavill at the moment is on his press tour for The Witcher.
The universe that I want to be, but I can only really be one, because once I'm...
Ooh, this might be it.
What he had to say.
There are a lot of characters from the Warhammerverse, the universe that I want to be, but I can only really be one, because once I'm one, then I can't be others. If it were to ever happen, if there were to be anything live action, I would have to be very aware of that. It is obviously character rich, especially the 40k universe. I suppose I could play a different character from the Warhammer Fantasy universe versus the 40k universe, but again, I'm now just dreaming. So I'd have to speak to the guys at Games Workshop and see what happens.
Now, I definitely think Henry has spoken to Games Workshop. There's no evidence to back this up at all.
That's not
but
the
since
interview.
Henry is him, just listen to this.
Wait.
You could play a great Eisenhorn. Just listen to this clip and tell me what you think.
5 years, you'd make a very good Greg Horizon, I think.
That would be exciting, yes, but then I burn Primarchs and the Captain General, so I just...
Captain General.
I don't really know.
Now, that little blurb of text...
There's a different one. There's a different one where he literally says, it would be hard to be a lowly Inquisitor with Valdor right there. I gotta find the exact interview. But, yeah, no, he's not going to be Eisenhorn. He's going to be... I could see him being a Primarch. I doubt it. I think he's Constantine Valdor. That's what I think. Woo, I'm so excited. Let's see here. Hang on now. Vandalf the Black says, people are familiar with escapism. It's a common theme. Every franchise has a dedicated fan who seeks to escape their everyday lives. That's true. Fantasy and science fiction are gateways for this distraction. Yeah, I agree. Den of trying to find the right interview. I know, and I feel
really
like trying some more,
excited.
man. I feel like finding some more. Where's it at? This is from 2 years ago? No, I gotta find... Man, I really gotta track this shit down. Is this possibly it? No, that's like that same interview there. Yeah, dude. I'm excited to watch The Secret Lair. I haven't watched it in a long time. I watched it like over a year ago. So it'll be cool to see like the final product. I gotta find that interview, man. This is from 2 years ago. Okay. All right. Well, we'll stop doing all that. Yeah. I'm excited, man. I'm excited, chat. I'm clearly pretty hyped up about it. So yeah, I got to get out of here. I've got a lot of stuff to do. Like I said, I got a big old video coming out about Chris Evans. And, man, wait till you watch that video. Like, it goes pretty wild. What I think they're actually setting up here is crazy. So, can't wait for that one. And we'll be back at it. We'll be live tomorrow morning as well. Tonight, we'll be live at 7:30 on Twitch. We're going to watch some Warhammer shit together. We're going to watch Secret Lair or Secret Level. And then... we're going to play some Marvel Rivals with Rob from Comics Explained. Oh, hell yeah. It's going to be a great day. It's going to be a great day. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the support. I'll see you guys really soon. As I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day. And I'll see you in the next video.
On an episode of the Pilot TV podcast, Henry Cavill suggests acting as one of his favorite Warhammer 40k characters, Constantine Valdor. Take a look.
Henry Cavill is Eisenhorn.
I mean, I don't know about Eisenhorn necessarily. When you've got Valdor and Primarchs.
That's it. Adam found it. That's the one. I don't know about Eisenhorn when you've got Valdor and the Primarchs right there. I told you, motherfuckers. And Adam did that shit for free. Thanks, buddy. Adam, you better hope that fucking Craven makes more than 50 million domestic, brother. Otherwise, you gotta clock in, and you're not even gonna make the quarter a day that Chet makes. All right. Is everybody gone? Did everybody leave? Leave. Oh, man. Oh. Are you ready for the Nerd Hammer podcast? Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Look, I'm going to be real with you. That was a fun stream, but I was not on point today. I was scatterbrained. I was just way too excited. I wasn't necessarily doing a great job of performing, let's say, but I hope you still had a good time, okay? I appreciate you guys, and trust me, a lot of work is going into trying to like get all of this shit figured out, make the streams better, make all the content better. We're not quite there. A lot of things happening behind the scenes. I've been incredibly stressed out. Like, there's a lot of shit going on. But I appreciate you guys, and I hope that you still appreciate the streams and the content we're making. I think it's going to get even better. A lot of cool stuff coming. The next couple of years are going to be fascinating. Really, really interesting. So I appreciate you for sticking with me, even when we're not completely on point and I'm just geeking the fuck out about Warhammer basically the whole stream. I appreciate you. So thank you. Make sure you open up your third eye and wash out your stinky butt hole.